Welcome back, everyone. It's AJ Barce, and in this video, I'm going to kind of give you some power tips and tricks with a Microsoft product. Yes, you heard me right, Microsoft. We're going to be looking at bookings, but not bookings as most academics are using it these days. You know, the portal that we're probably using for scheduling office hours. What I'm going to show you is kind of some tips and tricks that I've been helping a lot of people out with lately who are part of organizations and centers, like the Student Technology Center. So let's dive in. So I'm not going to go into how to set up a bookings, but I will kind of just point you in the right direction in case you haven't started out with one. So the first thing is when you go into bookings, which to access it, you come over here to the chiclet icon once you're signed into Western, and you're going to go to bookings. Now, once you get there, you're going to notice that your interface looks dated. So that's the reason why the first thing that I tell everybody when you get into bookings, come up here in the top right and say, yes, you do want to try the new bookings. I'm going to go ahead and switch back. When you start up a calendar and you're a center, you need to kind of take into account a couple of things. The first thing is your organization's hours of operation. Make sure you have that set up, and I'll show you where that is if you're not familiar with that in bookings in general. The second thing is get your staff in there. And if you're at Western, don't use GRPs. So if you're used to using grp.its.atus, that type of thing, don't use that in bookings because bookings will automatically give it guest access. It'll be grayed out, you won't be able to change it, and you won't be able to expand the group. Yes, you do have to do them individually. The other thing is when you think about your organization and your staff, your organization is when you're open. Your staff is the shifts that they will be providing. The last part is the service. When is it going to be available? And the reason why I spell it out in those three buckets is because if you are doing something that is non-reoccurring, that last part of when the service will be available is going to have some extra logic that you're going to have to put into it. And the example I like to use is, let's say you're doing workshops. So for instance, large format printing in our case is continuous. It's 5 days a week, it's through a certain bank of hours, and I have staff that have certain shifts. It's pretty easy to put in there. But when you have one-offs, like you have this one workshop that you have to offer and you want people to sign up for it, well, it's non-reoccurring. And that last step, you're not going to be dealing with the hours of operation of your institution or the shifts that your staff are going to be holding. It's really the service interval. And I'll show that in a second, but I want to kind of spell out those three pots when we're starting to build our organization. Because if you don't have that logic going in, it kind of gets muddy really fast. So let's go back over to here. First things first, let's go into our settings. Something I need to point out, really important, the bookings calendar is its own calendar. Every account that you attach to this is still their own little entity of calendars. The bookings calendar is just that. It's a central calendar that people can book. And because of that, you can tell this bookings calendar that if any of your staff have things on their personal calendar, it can impact it for their availability here. And this is a common question I get is, oh, we have all of our staff in here, but for some reason, nobody has any availabilities. Probably because check your staff, and you have to go through each of your staff and make sure that the events on their calendar checkbox is unchecked so that the availability is wide open. So going back over to our LFP, you'll notice I only have one service. It's a 15-minute slot because we do 4 prints per hour. And I am going to go over to our service details. And you'll notice that this is our standard stuff. You notice that we also have custom fields. This is another question I get is how do you add custom fields? It's a little bit of a clunky interface. You have to create a custom field over here first, add your custom field. And then when you're dealing with your services, you can come in and when you're editing your service, you can use a custom field. I don't know why Microsoft does that. It's just the Microsoft way, I guess. So I have our custom fields already in there. And for us, the service details that we really need is the class that this print is going to be applied to and who the professor is. And of course, all of this other stuff like one large format per class per quarter and the prices and the location. Again, this is all under your edit service or when you set up your service. But if we go to our staff, I've only assigned one staff member to this. And that's because, again, I've set it up so that this account, even though I have all my other staff in here, this is the only account that you're booking with. And what makes that nice is if we go into our edit service And you see that we have show this service on the bookings page. You have to have that turned on to be able to have it. But what's nice is we can come into our availability options, and I've created the time increments to be every 15 minutes, which means we get 4 prints per hour. A minimum lead time. You can't just hop on and get in the next 15 minutes get the next print. Nah. Again, building in buffer time for your staff. So I have a 4-hour window. So if you sign in the morning, you'll get an afternoon queue. If you sign in the morning. The other thing is that your maximum lead time, by default, this is set to 365 days, which on a quarter system doesn't help. So we've limited it to 90 days so that it keeps it within the quarter or a quarter or two, depending if it's midterms. Now you notice that the availability is set for bookable when staff are free. And because I have the only one staff member, anybody can book at any time, as long as it fulfills this logic. And you'll notice that I have the availability dates starting at 9/27 and ending at 10:10, and it's not bookable. Well, how can I be bookable and not bookable? And this is where the magic comes in, or logic, I should say. Let me go ahead and discard this, and let me pull up what our actual our appointment calendar looks like. And now here, this is the front end after all of that logic. We have only LFP. You'll notice I don't have a drop down for staff. I have that turned off because, again, I have only one staff that is being applied to this. And you'll notice that, this week, next week, only the 11th, it starts up with the time. And that's where the magic comes in with this. If we want to have a limited time frame that a service is provided, you have to kind of think of an if-then statement. If your service is available, then you want to make it bookable when staff are free. Or if you don't want it available except for a certain time in the future, then you'll make it not bookable and bookable in the future. So let me show you the difference. I've made it so that it's always bookable, but during this start date, 9/27 to 10/10, and we don't have to worry about anything beyond the date today because the past is the past, it doesn't care. So you don't have to worry about going this from the dawn of 1902 forward. We don't have to worry about that. We can start on 9/27 and ending on 10/10, it is not bookable. That means starting at 10/11, it'll be bookable. And it'll be bookable when staff are free, which are, and again, I'm going through those hierarchies, when their shifts are available, which is all of our business hours. And how did it get that? Because the business information had that. So that's kind of the reason why I wanted to point that logic is you're starting either from the top down or from the bottom up. Services to your organization or organization down to your service. So let's inverse this. Let's say we wanted to do like a one-off workshop. So I'm going to jump over to a different calendar because I don't want to incite panic on my crew as I'm messing around with our LFP calendar. So I have a training calendar for the STC, and in here I have lots of different services because this is more of our training workshop bookings. And in here I have a makerspace workshop, and when I click on it, you'll see in parentheses what I've kind of got envisioned in my mind. It's online, it's a one-day class, and there can be 8 in attendance. So let me show you how that logic works. I'm going to go ahead and go to our edit service like we do before. And again, you don't have to put these in parentheses. I just have this out here because I want to show you the formula. So in here, I've added an online meeting. I've put it in so that it's an hour long. And in here, I've made the attendees. So 8 people, this slot will show up on the calendar and can be clicked on 8 times to 8 different attendees. And that's how you get your 8 slots filled. Nobody can see how many slots are available on the front end. Only you on the back end can see how many slots are filled. I wish that was a feature, to be honest. So once you have all of that in, under availability options, we've got our increment is 1 hour, 24 hours lead time, and then lead time again, 1 quarter, 90 days. Now here's where it changes. Our availability for this is general, not bookable, meaning I don't want this to show up on the calendar unless, here's the unless. The availability for this workshop is between 10/4 and 10/5. So it's a 1-day workshop with 8 attendees, and this one's made for online. You can do the same thing for face-to-face. And I've set custom hours. So instead of it being bookable when staff are free, custom hours and we can say Monday 4 to 5. When I apply that, now you'll notice that I only have one day. It doesn't reoccur, as you can see, for 4 o'clock. And there's one of the 8 slots available, and I can sign up for it. So that shows how you can do calendaring of non-reoccurring appointments, as well as reoccurring service appointments like our LFP. So hopefully that helps you kind of wrap your head around bookings. It's not just a tool so that you can have like a small team and dedicate different services to different team members, but you can also set it up so that you can have either an organization training on one calendar or a service. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on WordPress as wp.wwu.edu/ajbarce, or you can email me. Catch you later, and we'll see you in the next tutorial.